All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Yudalit Maseches Yevamos. We left off yesterday a little bit short. Yud Gimel, Beis, smack in the middle. Rava Omar. So going on a new svara. So we had, remember, the original Mishnah was talking about two brothers, and one of them died without children, and his wife and co-wife, right, the two of the wives fall to the brother for Yibum. So one of them happened to be related to Reuven, right, or to the brother, to the live brother. So we say, well, since she's an erva, so she doesn't do Yibum or Chalitza, and then Beis Hillel learns that also that Sarah is pater from Yibum or Chalitza and goes on and can marry whoever she likes. However, Beis Shammai argues Beis Shammai was not presented in our first Mishnah, rather Beis Shammai was listed in our second Mishnah, and Beis Shammai says, no, that Sarah does do Yibum or Chalitza. So Rav Amar Tamayu, the Beis, or the smack in the middle of the page, maybe, 8 lines from the bottom of the skinny lines. Does that make sense? Rav Amar Tamayu, the Beis Shammai, the Ein Isser Chalal Isser. You don't have an Isser Chalal Isser. So let's say like this. Here's the case, right? You got to use the people, right? I'm not used to on my left side. I'm right-handed. Now, so okay, I can't show it on my screen. All right, so we have over here, if you have two brothers, and for whatever reason, right, or not whatever reason, this is his daughter, okay? So his daughter marries him, okay? Marries his brother, okay? Now, this daughter was already usher to him because his daughter. So Ein Isser Chal Isser, learns Rava. In other words, since there's already an Isser Kares for him to be with her because it's his daughter, you don't have a new Isser of my brother's wife. One Isser is Chal at a time, unless it's a bigger Isser, right? So now, so even if there's a tzara, right? So there's a tzara, according to Beis Shammai, since this one, there's never Chal on him, a new Isser of Eishach. So therefore, she's not a tzara to her because she was never usher because of Eishach. So therefore, she's not part of the Eishach question. Right. So therefore, according to Beis Shammai, there's even the other one. Now, however, so it says Rav. So okay, now there's a new case. Let's say these two are sisters, right? And these are two brothers. Okay. So this guy, he's going to be the one who dies, right? So let's say, Tinach, this works well. So he married the sister first. These two are sisters. So he married her first. Now, so he married her first. So she is usher to him because of my brother's wife. Now, okay, now he marries her. Okay, now, when he marries her, is she usher to him because of my wife's sister? No, because Ein Isser Chalal Isser. So she's never usher to this guy for being his wife's sister. So therefore, because this was never Chalal, so therefore when he dies, right? So therefore, that's the case where there is no, where the Isser, it wouldn't be in place. So Tina, however, what about this case? Let's say in these two cases, the guy, he marries her first. So therefore, she is now usher to him because of his wife's sister. Now she marries him, okay? And then he dies. So now there never was, in theory, an Isser of his brother's wife on him because she was already usher to him for being his wife's sister. So Ella Nasachai V'Achakanas Achas cut. And Kevan Asi Isser so Kevan Deloy Asi Isser Ashes Achala Isser Achas Isha. Havilat Saras Irvish Lavagam Mitzvah V'Shar. So he says, no, like this. Since this case, the new Isser is Nachal, it'll be like any other case. Okay, when you actually need an answer, it'll be like this is a co-wife, right? So it'll be like any other case of where that any other case where somebody marries a relative and it doesn't make if it's shalom makom yibum, you're allowed to go ahead and marry the co-wife, right? You can marry the co-wife of your daughter, right? If your daughter marries a guy and he marries another woman, and that guy dies, right? So you can marry the co-wife, right? You can always marry the co-wife unless it's b'makom mitzvah. So too over here, since Beis Shammai said that shalom b'makom mitzvah, right? Because over here there was never an isser on her because it was his sister's wife, his wife's sister. So therefore, right, this woman, this Sarah, would be mutter according to Beis Shammai because it's shalom b'makom mitzvah. Fine, 2 dots. Cholzu Beis Shammai place. So we say now in this case, we're talking about a case of regular yibum, right? In those cases, and Beis Shammai says, right? So Beis Shammai places. So if they do. So let's go back to the Mishnah where the Mishnah says, right? So Beis Shammai matir matzar seach Beis Hillel isim, right? Cholzu, if they do chalitza, right? Then Beis Shammai paisim and Kahuna then says pasuk Kahuna. Beis Hillel says machshir, right? Because now, if this guy dies, and this is the erva, right? So according to Beis Shammai, she has to do yibum chalitza. She does chalitza. She's now a chalutza, which is also to a kohen, right? And according to Beis Hillel, she has to do nothing to him. So when she removes the shoe and spits in the floor and does a chalitza, does nothing. She's not a chalutza. So says the Gemara pshita. So it's obvious. So the Gemara has to know let's just do a rule so everyone agrees. Let's just say that even though she's at Sarah's erva, right? She's at Sarah of her, which is his daughter. Let's just say she does chalitza just in case, right? And therefore, if we say she does chalitza, maybe she has a status of a chalutza, and she's a chalutza. She's also the kohen. So the Gemara says, Kamashla the Beis Hillel says she doesn't do chalitza, and she goes off and does nothing. Fine.
Beis Hillel says she does.
She does not.
She does not. She's so putter that we don't even allow her to do chalitza. Right. So this Yibum Beis Hillel Beis. And now if they do Yibum, if this one does Yibum with the brother, so according to Beis Hillel, right? That's Mamash and Erva, right? Shouldn't do it, right? It's his brother's wife. Shalom Makom Mitzvah. All right. And according to Beis Shammai, it's a mitzvah. So we say that. So now the Beis Hillel Beis. So why did you fill that case? So I Chaltzu Tananami Nisiyah, but since we said the case of Chaltzu, therefore we also say Yibum. Fine. Now the Gemara is going to move. So Tanan Hasam. Megillah Nikreis Bechad Basar B'Shnei Basar B'Shlosh Basar B'Arba Basar B'Chamish Basar. Lo Perchas Lo Yasir. Right. The Megillah can be read on one of any of these days from the 11th through the 15th. Not earlier and not later. So Amar we'll soon see why we're going to bring this at the turn of the page. We'll see why we're bringing this in now. Yeah, what's shaykhus, right? So what do you mean? Isn't there a problem of leisis godu? So on this, Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan, leisis godu. What does that mean? Leisasu agudas agudos. One of the pshat in the pasuk says. What does the pasuk say? Towards the bottom, it says. Right? So it says you are born to Hashem. What's pshat lo sisgodu? One of the pshatim is do not make agudos. Don't make different groups. In other words, people have different halachas. So wait, why you have some people reading on the 11th or the 12th or the 13th, and other people living on the 14th or different days? You're creating agudos. It appears like the Shnei Rishuyos. It appears like there's two different gods. So Gemara says, "Hi, let's go to no. Let's go to me the Gufay. No, it's telling you Pshat the pasuk. Let's go over here. It means don't make a wound on a mace, right? From for a dead body, right? From hearing about a person died. My Lord is good. What does it mean? This good. So therefore, no, it says the double tough. So therefore. You can learn there. That means agudos. I maybe it's only telling you los agudos. So in case nemakra los agudo. My los agudo. What is the $2? Shmamino tarti. Both of them. So it's teaching you both halachas. Not to make agudos. Not to make mitzvahs in bundles or have different groups do different mitzvahs, and also not to go ahead and make a mark in one's body upon hearing about a mace. So Amalei ad kan l'shenitza. So you only ask over here on this case of let's go to it seems like two different halachas, right? In the case of Megillah. So Makam Shana, what about this case? Makam Shana Gulasas Malach Baravish Pesachim at Chatzais Aisin. Makam Shana Gushalasas Ein Aisin. In a place where the minhag gets to do malacha up until Chatzos and Pesach, he can do it. In a place where the minhag is not to do it, then you don't do it. Samarlei, Amina Lachana Yisura. One second. I was talking about a davar iser, right? In terms of halachas of reading the Megillah. They're not Shimon bar Abba Rabbi Yechon. The kaimas yimei apurim b'zmaneim. Zmanim harbeiting nulaim chacham. So they're misakin many zmanim. It's halacha. V'yatam arteli min haga. And you're going to say, well, why'd you ask in the case of what we're talking about, right? Halachas or isurim in terms of Megillah, and do you wanted me to ask in a case of minhag by Pesachim? But wait, even over there, the case of Pesach, it's also Isser Havi, but it's not as we learn. Right, at night, Beis Shammai says it's usher. In other words, it's talking about isurim. It's usher to do malacha over there, even at night. Beis Matirim. Samalem Hassam over there. No, it's different over there. You can't ask over there. Why? Because the person is refrains from work. Hassam they'll say the reason why he's not working is not because it appears he has a different shulchan aruch or he's doing other things. It just appears he has nothing to do. He doesn't have work. Now we see why I bring it in. So let's look at another case. I'll give another case we should ask. Beis Shammai says that Sarah, right, the co-wife of the Erva, right, they permitted her to go ahead and do yibum with the brother, and Beis Hillel says completely austere.
So she lose the kohen of the world.
Or he can take her as yibum, or he can take her. They can get married. According to Beis Shammai, they can get married. Right. So you have different halachas. How can you have different halachas? Let's just go to do. Because each one is doing it. In other words, each one of. So let's see. Well, let's get there. Let's see. All right. Good. So Gemara says, so Gemara says, turn the page. So who says they actually did it? Maybe they argued in halacha and they didn't do it, right? Right? No, maybe the Beis Shammai did not do as they said. Rabbi Yochanan Asu, right? Asu. He said no. Rabbi Yochanan says they did it. No, Rabbi Yochanan held that Beis Shammai actually had the tsaros go ahead and do yibum mechalitza, and Beis Hillel said they didn't. Looks at the Rav Shmuel. The Rav says Beis Shammai did not go like Beis Shammai. In other words, they all follow the same halacha. The Beis also Beis Shammai. Shmuel Amar also v'yas. He says indeed they did. So Amos, wait, what's going on there? When do we say that Beis Shammai did it? Even according to the opinion that says yes. If it was before there was a baskol, now there's a baskol that says halacha kedivrei Beis Hillel. So if it was before the baskol, my time to under asu. What's the reason why the one that said they didn't do it? The Beis Shammai held that it's motor, you're supposed to do it. They should have done it. Rather, you're going to say, no, it must have been after the baskol, right? That's, when they did it. So if that's the case, my time to under asu. What's the reason why Beis Shammai followed the Shitas after the baskol said, halacha kedivrei Beis Hillel? So let's see. So if you want, I can give it two theories. If you want to say even before the baskol, and what was the question before the baskol? Why wouldn't they have done it? Could go into Beis Hillel Ruba, right? So Beis Hillel was the Rav. So according to the Beis Shammai didn't act upon their halachas, the Beis Hillel Ruba, because they went after the Rav, which was Beis Hillel. And the one who says that indeed they did, so how they go after the miyut, right? That's only when they're equal. However, Beis Shammai was merchad. They were sharper, they were wiser. So even though they were the minority, since they were sharper, therefore they acted like their opinions of Beis Shammai. Or if was the reason why they didn't do it. The Baskol said, and the one who says no, they still did it even after the Baskol was that which Zevi references to Rabbi Shui, that we don't listen to the Baskol because Torah B'Shemayim. Karina and Khan. So now comes the question. According to the opinion who held that they did it, Beis Shammai acted in such a way. Why don't you say Karin Khan license good, right? License good, right? How could each one be following their own their own case, right? It appears that some cases will be mamzerim or something. Or chavi lavin. So Abaye, Kiyamrin, let's go to do could go and stay batidin in the ir achas. Why don't we say let's go to there's like two batidin in one city. Halum one basically goes like Beis Shammai, the one goes Beis Hillel. But if you have two different basins, two different cities, then it's not an issue of let's go to. It's not problematic. And I'm really rough of Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Kashtei batidin b'irachas. But they were in the same city. They weren't in separate towns. So Alamaravo Kiyamri Nicholas is going to do could go and Beis Din Beir Achas. No, when is let's go to when you have basin in one city? So Pelegamarin Kadivi Beis Shammai, Pelegamarin Kadivi Beis Hillel. Well, half of them go like Beis Shammai, half of them go like Beis Hillel of the same base in the same town. But if you have two Bati Dinim in the same city, less lamba. Then there is no issue of Los is good. Right. Tashma, come listen, fourth line from the bottom of the skinny lines. So Tashma, according in the place of Rebbe Eliezer, in the town of Rebbe Eliezer, they used to go ahead and burn basically some of the wood to make coal in order for the purposes of to make like charcoal for Shabbos. La'asas barzel, to go ahead and make metal, and in other words, for the purpose of bris milah, they had to go ahead and sharpen it. So they would do machshirei mitzvah. They would do these things even on Shabbos. And because Rabbi Yosef that was one kula that most did not hold of. And because Rabbi Yosef right, they would go ahead and have chicken and milk. Right, Kentucky Fried Chicken. They would have it. Why? Because they had actually the Chalev Imo. They had the meat that is forbidden is only meat from an animal that produces milk. But since a chicken doesn't produce milk, it's okay. Because of Rabbi Eliezer, because of Rabbi Kiva low, right? However, it's only in the Makal of Rabbi Eliezer they would do it. However, in the Makal of Rabbi Kiva, they would not go ahead and basically burn the charcoal, to go ahead and sharpen the tools. The tiny little brisa. Klal Amar Rabbi Kiva. Shabbos. Any malacha that you can do for your Shabbos, such as sharpening your metal utensils, even though you have to do bris milah, which is Mechal Shabbos, you're getting your blood. Nevertheless, anything you can do before Shabbos, that is done for your Shabbos. Ain't dachas Shabbos, it's not dachas Shabbos. So therefore, the question is, how is he able to go ahead and do it? Makam Rabbi Eliezer. I might see if the Makam is become shani. What do you mean? We just said before, if it's one basin in one town, another basin in another town, or even two different Bati Dinim in one town, it's okay. So God said, oh, you're right. So the kari my kari. So the question, what was even the half of the question? Is a pasha answer, right? So the Shabbos. Since maybe the Chomer of Shabbos, maybe the Chomer was throughout and therefore everywhere. Kamash Balon, that there is no special Chomer of Shabbos. Mekamas is a valid answer. So Toshmakom, listen to Rabbi Abu Ki Ikla le'asrei de Rishub Levi when he was in the town of Rishub Levi, having metaltel sharga, he would move a lamp. Right, you move around his lamp on Shabbos. Is not considered the malacha. The kilo le'asrei de Rabbi Yechanan. However, when he was in the town of Rabbi Yechanan, he would not go ahead and move the candle. So one place he would, one place he wouldn't. I'm a kusha. What was the question? Then we just say two different places. One was the place of Rabbi Shimon Levi, the other was the place of Rabbi Yechanan. So he says no. Rabbi Abu Heicha Avid. What would he himself do? So Hacha Heichi Avid. Hacha Heichi. Right? He says Hachi the Heichi Avid Hacha Hachi. Right? How can each place he do a different one? So he says, no, really, Rabbi Abu Shimon Levi, severe Levi. Really, I like your Shimon Levi that it was mutter to move around. But however, when he was in the town of Rabbi Yechanan, it wasn't like it was two different places. He held it was mutter, but because of kavod Rabbi Yechanan, he would not go ahead and touch it and move it. But what is Shamash? The Shamash would move it because the Shamash was used to his Rebbe moving the lamp on Shabbos. So the man says, no, the modulator Shami already informed his Shamash not to go ahead and move around. Fine. Toshma, come listen. So he said in our Mishnah, even though that these is Asr and these are mutter, Nimnu Beis Shammai, Melise Nashim Beis Hillel. Below Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. They did not refrain from marrying one another. Now, if you held that they didn't, Beis Shammai didn't follow their halacha to allow the tzara to go ahead and marry the brother. Because that they didn't refrain from marrying one another, right? They could marry one another because they all acted the same halachically, right? Eli Yamarta also. But if you said that actually Beis Shammai followed their shittas, their opinions, why? How could they marry each other? So Bishlam Beis Shammai, it makes sense why Beis Shammai was willing, or they didn't not marry the daughters of Beis Hillel. Why? Because we said in this case where she, right, who was his daughter, right? She was a daughter, and she was the tzara. Okay, he's the daughter. Here's the tzara. So according to Beis Hillel, she's allowed to go ahead and marry somebody else. Marry somebody else without anything. So there's only a lav. There's only a lav because a lav is you're supposed to do yibum mechalitza. But even in regular cases, one woman she falls to yibum. She says, I don't care. I'm not from. Right. I'm going to marry whoever I want. Right. It's only a lav if she doesn't do yibum mechalitza. Right. She's not a Aisha. She's not nothing. It's just zika, right? She breaks the zika and she marries somebody else. Fine. So that's only a chayvi lav. So according to that, Beis Shammai, she got to do yibum mechalitza. So even if she just went and married somebody else, it's only chayvi lav, and so her children are mamzerim. Right? Everyone's fine. But they have the crazy because according to Beis Shammai, they have to do yibum chalitza. So if the co-wife does with the brother, she gets married and has yibum, and they have a baby, right? This guy, he would be a mamzer, right? So how can he go ahead and marry somebody else, right? He can't. He's a mamzer according to Beis Shammai.
Marry a sister.
Okay, so okay, good. We'll see. Let's see. Good. So God says, and if you want to say, I have an idea, maybe Beis Shammai held that even though he would be chayiv kares because she's b'makom erva, she's basically an eishes ach, right? And they have a child. Maybe this child is not considered a mamzer. But Saras, even though they argue by Saras, right? We know that they both agree that this child will be a mamzer. It must be that they didn't, Beis Shammai did not act, because they didn't act on it because they were marrying one another. So he always says, no, maybe they did. Right? Uparshi, no, really, maybe they did act on it, but they told them, they said, by the way, according to you guys, you can't marry this one because this one is a mamzer according to Beis Hillel. So in other words, even though sort of like El was saying, even though it wasn't that common, but when it did occur, right. If the one time, but I'm sure that back in the day, there was more families marrying one another. There's small towns and right. No, I don't. Right, good point. Right. So anyway, right, but that they got to go back a couple thousand years. So Parshi, I'm logical say. Tani says the Sefer says, "Kol taros v'kol tameos shayu elu matirin ve'elu matami lo yidim masim taros." It says in the Sefer, not only in the case they marry one another, but it says even in the case of Tuma and Tahara. Right, the bottom line, right? So even the case of when Beis Hillel holds its tameh and Beis Shammai holds its tahor, nevertheless, they would use each other's utensils. So how could you do that? So turn the page. If you say that they informed and they told him, hey, heads up, by the way, according to you guys, it's no good. That's why they didn't prevent, because if they didn't tell them, this is okay, then, they weren't warned, that's fine. But if they said they didn't inform them, so because according to Beis Shammai, they were more making when it comes to Tumah Tahara, and that which Beis Hillel, it was that which was Tumah to Beis Hillel was Tahara to Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai had no issue with the Tumah of Beis Hillel. Ella Beis Hillel Beis Shammai right? Thomas Beis Shammai the Beis Hillel Tamayas Ninu, right? But how could Beis Hillel basically use the kalim of Beis Shammai if there was tummy to them? Allah, rather not, the Modilu Shmamina must be that they did inform. So why'd you be two cases? Why'd you say they were married to one another, right? And then also they used each other's utensils. Just say one halacha, and we can figure out that they informed each other. So Mate, what just said, Sarah Kala Isla. Maybe if it was just the case of the time, they married one another. Because there's a shmua, people heard this guy had two wives, and the brother died, and the co-wife married there. So therefore, people know that this union was through Yibum, which would be forbidden to Beis Hillel, and the Vlad's a mom, so therefore there's a Kala Islay. Therefore people will know. But in the case of Tumah Tahara, no one would have a clue as to what was Tameh, which Kalim, or which utensils are Tameh Torah. So the Kamash Malan, they would tell. Fine, Gufa. Omar Rabbi Elazar, but Saros, even though Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel were arguing, but Saros, so everyone agrees that the Vlad is an Einish Karetz. Saman Moed, who's Moed do? Elam Beis Shammai and the Beis Hillel. If you're saying the Beis Shammai and the Beis Hillel, Pshita b'nei Chavi Lavini Aksharninu, right? So back in the case we said before, right? So if according to all right, according to Beis Hillel, so right, this is the daughter, right? The daughter's his daughter, right? And this guy dies. So according to Beis Hillel, she goes ahead and marries somebody else and has a child. Everybody agrees that that's not a mamzer because she just married, a mutal l'shuk. Not mutal l'shuk according to Beis Shammai, she's us l'shuk, but she married someone l'shuk, and it wasn't a case of chavi krisis. Everyone agreed with that. Ella Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, rather Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. So he guva chavi krisis he. So of course that's the case of chavi krisis. So the Yelam Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. No, really, even in the case of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, what would you have thought? Maybe Beis Shammai would have ruled that according to Beis Hillel, she'd go marry someone l'shuk, their child Mamzer, so according to Rabbi Kiva, his shita is that even if there's a lav, a woman cannot take someone because it says, go ahead and marry your brother-in-law, okay, because you didn't have children, marry your brother-in-law, and you don't marry your brother-in-law, you violate a lav, right? Your children are mamzer. According to Rabbi Akiva, only according to Rabbi Akiva. Everybody else holds chavik krisis, but according to Rabbi Akiva, it's a lav, right? And therefore, right, and therefore we learn over here that there is no mamzer from b'chayv lav. So Toshba, come listen. Now, even though Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue in the case of Tsaros, which is our case, Ubachayas, in the case of sisters, is the Mishnah later on, where you have basically there's four brothers, two brothers marry two sisters, and the two brothers die, and the two sisters fall to Yibum. So we say that they shouldn't go ahead and do Yibum with Levi and Yehuda, right? But
Both of them can't do.
Well, the Gemara we're going to later on is a special gzeira in that case. We're not going to get into it now. But over there, you're not supposed to. And over there, if they do go ahead and marry, Beis Shammai says they can go ahead and stay. So they don't really argue. So there is an argument over there.
You can go ahead and
They shouldn't do Yibum there. Right. But if they do Yibum there, everyone says nobody does. Everyone does don't do Yibum there. In that case, do Chalitza, right? Whatever. We have to see the Gemara there. So, but if they do go ahead and do Yibum, right? Then we say that Beis Shammai says you can stay, and Beis Hillel says you can't stay. Okay, so they argue over there. We're basically bringing cases of where Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai are arguing, right? So B'tzaros, so B'chayis, B'geyash, and also an old get. A guy is going to give his wife a get. He writes it up, and then he's secluded with her. He goes away on vacation with her, comes back and uses the same get. So perhaps that's also not good. But Savig Eish, and a Savig Eish is referring to a case of miyun, where a girl potentially could do miyun after her husband dies, so maybe she can nullify it retroactively. So that's also called like a Savig Eish. When Magari says Yishto, Avalani Malvapundak, also one who divorces his wife and then stays with her on vacation after the divorce. The Kesef Shava Kesef, the Pruta Shava Pruta. Let's say in terms of the amount that's given, we know that the Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel disagree as to what the amount is for kedushin. How much does that have to be? Does that have to be a Pruta? Does that have to be a Kesef? So nevertheless, it says that they're not just our case, right? But all these cases, like Nina Beis Shammai and Elisa Nashim Beis Hillel, right? Beis Shammai did not stop or did not prevent us from marrying the daughters of Beis Hillel. Below Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Not Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. I'm dachal to teach you shechiba v'reyes noagim zeh b'zeh. Right, to teach you that they were beloved to one another. So l'kaim hashenemar ha'emes v'shalom ya'avu. Right, to fill the pasuk of the love, truth, and shalom and peace. And Rabbi Shimon Omer, and Rabbi Shimon says, which is going to be our point. Nimnu hein min avadai v'lo min asaf. No. If it was a vadai, right, then if there was a vadai, then they wouldn't take that person, right? They knew that vadai, that Sarah, that Yibum, and so they would stay away from the from the vlad, right? But mina sapek, they wouldn't stop. So Iyamar to be Shlomo Asu, if you say that Beis Shammai acted upon their halachas. That makes sense. Why? He says they were nimnu miravadai. Eli Amar lo asu, but if he said lo asu, they didn't do it. Am I nimnu? Right? Why did they go ahead and if they didn't do it, so why couldn't they mirror one another? Right. Exactly. But he doesn't make sense. Even he say also Bishlam Beisal the Chavi Christino. So it makes sense why Beisal would stay away from Beishamai because of Chavi Chris is because if the Tsar does Yibum, then the Vlad is a Mamzer. Mamzerin. The Beisilo, the Mamzer Beisil, there would be a Mamzer according to the Shita Beisila. Ella Beishamai, according to Beishamai, my Nimnu. Right? Why would they right? According to Beishamai, why would they buy Nimnu Beisilo? But Chavi Lavaninu, Ksherim. Right? They're kosher. So why answers no. Kadama Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, like Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says around La Nitzcha El Tzar Asma. Right? Later on, we'll see the Teres. They were only referring to the Tzar itself. How can I have La Nitzcha El Tzar Asma? In other words, when it comes to the Tzar itself, in other words, if this woman is a Tzara who's going to marry into the Shuk, then Beis Shammai would say, you know what, she should really be doing Yibur Chalitza. We're not going to marry her, even though it's a Chavi Lav, and it wouldn't prevent Mamzerim. But they says, you know what, this woman, according to us, shouldn't be able to marry one of us because she should really do Yibum Chalitza. Gemara says, wait, what's the reason from the Vada? If we know that Vada, the Sarah married the brother and they had a Vlad, there's a Mamzer, right? Who? Suffolk Nami Yisura, a Suffolk Shastra be Yasur. So Gemara says, Lo Tinim Suffolk. Don't say from the Suffolk they said it was Mutter. Ella Ema Mina Stam. It wasn't a suffix, rather it was a stam. In other words, there was no shmua about this person. There was no shmua, no one heard anything, so therefore be okay. So Maidalu Parshi, because normally they would inform them and they would separate. I know that since they would inform, they would separate. So there was no case. Normally, even in cases, they would inform them. So it was the case, they might have come from there, they would inform them. Well, my Kamash Malon, where he comes to teach us, the Av of Reus Nogim is Zebset, where he comes to teach us that they're beloved one another. Haina Resha, that's the Resha. So what is Rabbi Shimon adding, right? When he says that in case of Vadai they wouldn't, but in case of Stam, they would marry them. So Gemara answers now, Kamash Malon to Kulu Rabbi Shimon. It comes to teach us that this whole brisa was according to Rabbi Shimon, and we'll stop over here. Everybody. All right. We caught up.